Thanks, Jason, for having me. Thanks, everybody, for coming out here tonight. I will answer all your questions. Feel free to raise your hand and we can take them as we're going through the presentation. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into this. You don't have to take all the notes. Jason has a copy of this presentation. We can send it to you. You can email me or you can email Jason. But obviously, you're welcome to take any notes you want. Start quick just saying, we don't give you guys any investment advice. We don't endorse any products. This is simply educational information. Consult with all of your, accountants, attorneys, and professionals before making any investments. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. This is the basics, but like I said, we'll take more questions. Jason's going to bring up some other complicated situations as well after this, but I just want to give you a background on to what this is. So what is a self-directed IRA? Basically, you can look it up. There's plenty of definitions, but I like to say it's an IRA. You can invest in anything that you want. There's a few things that you can't invest in, and I'll get to those in just a few moments. This is what we see the majority of our clients investing in: real estate, precious metals, that's physical bullion, stored at a depository, notes, big field there, discounted, secured, unsecured, etc., and private placements. That includes private businesses, companies, private funds that may be doing notes, real estate, etc. I'm just going to click through these pretty quickly here. If there's anything that you don't see that you're interested in, let me know. But you can do all types of real estate. Single family, multifamily, commercial, raw land, no limitations there on your real estate. Again, the notes is a big field. You can see all the types of different things you can do there, and then the private placements, LLCs, LPs, private funds, etc. So the IRS never tells you what you can invest in, only what you cannot invest in. It's a pretty simple list here: collectibles and life insurance. As long as it doesn't classify as a collectible or life insurance, then most likely you can use your IRA to make the investment. You can look at publication 590. You won't see that you can invest in real estate. They won't tell you that. They won't tell you can invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, etc. Publication 590 does mention real estate over 50 times, telling you what you can't do with it. But like I said, they never tell you what you can do with it. So there is a lot of gray area out there. It's good and it's bad. On the good side, IRAs don't get audited very often. But on the negative side there, it doesn't set a lot of precedents. So when somebody says, well, hey, can I do this? And it's an odd situation, maybe. Again, consult with your accountants and attorneys on that stuff. If you have any questions, though, as to what you can't do, let me know. And you'll notice the exception there for the precious metals. Disqualified people. You can't lend money to yourself or your own business or any disqualified person. A disqualified person stemming from you, your spouse, parents, grandparents, kids, grandkids. Just ascent and descent there, stemming from you. Your mother will probably, disagree that your brother and sister are family, but the IRS says your brother and sister are fine. Okay? So just ascent, descent there as to a prohibited person. That includes any business or entity you own 50% or more of or have control of. So you can't take it and go lend your money to your LLC and go buy real estate in your LLC. You just want to look at your IRA as a separate entity. It's not you. It doesn't have any credit. You can't personally guarantee anything for it. It's its own entity. You're making the decisions for it. But what you're to do with your IRA over here is different than what you're to do personally over here. Two different buckets. You can use all these types of accounts, tax deferred or tax free. It doesn't matter. The same house you can buy in your traditional IRA or SEP IRA, you can buy in your Roth IRA. Obviously, the difference here is the tax-free accounts are going to grow tax-free. The tax-deferred accounts are going to grow tax-deferred, and you're going to pay when you take it out. And I got an example here for you in just a minute. So this, I think, these next two slides are some of the most important examples. Anybody in here still have a job? A few of you? Okay. Anybody in here ever been promoted? A few. Were you lucky enough to have the mayor or the governor or the president get you a promotion? You were? No? I wasn't either, but I call this the 4 types of money. No matter what you do in the W-2 salary atmosphere, you're going to get taxed. If you make around $100,000, you're going to keep around 60, right? Every time you got a raise, the mayor, the governor, the president, they didn't give you any help doing that. But you know what they said? Thank you. As soon as you got a raise and made more money, they don't even ask you, they just take it. They just take more money from you. So you want to make what you need to put food on the table or live on in this atmosphere, and then you want to start funneling your money down into these other ways of investing, right? Passive income, you can cut out the Social Security, Medicare, save around 15%. Obviously the tax deferred, you're going to get to keep 100% of what you make to keep growing, but you will pay the taxes when you take that money out. And the tax-free will grow tax-free, however you will have paid on it at the beginning. So you wouldn't have gotten a break. Not sure. Hello?
Test. There we go. Back up, Mike.
That one's on the wire.
Try to talk real close to that.
Alrighty. Alright, I'll stay real close to this, and I'll stay on this side since I don't have that much room. So to illustrate this, and I'm just going to say a Roth account, a traditional account, and this purple one is you personally with a 30% tax bracket and a 10% return. You started out with $50,000 in each one of these accounts, same investment, same return, 10%. In your Roth IRA, you're going to end up with $2.2 million. You're still going to end up with $2.2 million in your traditional IRA, but everything stay the same, 30% tax bracket, you have to give that back. So you end up with around 1.5, right? Same investment again, you didn't have all the money because you were paying taxes. You personally end up with $748,000. So you're really going to be able to grow your wealth a lot greater using these tax-deferred and tax-free environment. Does that make sense to everybody there? Now it is a little unfair, right? The tax-deferred money, I wouldn't pay it out of the account anyway, but you would have paid in the Roth IRA if you converted that $50,000, you would have paid the taxes on that 50. But I kind of describe it as, do you want to pay on the seeds or the crop? You know what your taxes are today. You can pay on that money in 2018. You know what they are. We don't know what they're going to be in 10, 20, 30 years. Anybody in here know the highest tax bracket in the last 100 years? 90% was the highest tax bracket, okay? So we're somewhere in between. We're not at the lowest, but we're not at the highest. I don't know where they're going. What do you guys think? Up, down? A lot of people believe that. So if you're looking at converting, you can always convert any of your tax-deferred money to a Roth IRA. If you think you make too much money, you don't have to worry about that. Conversions, you can always do it. If you do make too much to directly contribute, you can put it into a traditional and then convert it as well. If you have questions, talk to me on that afterwards. But everybody can have a Roth. Anybody in here remember Mitt Romney when he ran? Anybody know how much money he has in his IRA? 100 million when he was running, right? When he disclosed his stuff. People were calling our office saying, I want one of those Mitt Romney IRAs. You know? And then some jerk in the Washington Post or the New York Post writes an article and says Mitt Romney didn't make good investments, and I want to be like, yeah, so show me your IRA. He's got 100 million. What do you have? So you can make the money. Everybody can have them. They're there for you to use. Self-directed IRAs are nothing new. They've been around since the 70s when IRAs were created. And I'll back up a little bit here. Self-directed is an adjective in front of an IRA. To the IRS, an IRA is an IRA, right? You'll hear real estate IRA, gold IRA, lending IRA. It's an IRA, right? But Vanguard and Merrill Lynch, the brokerage houses will tell you have a self-directed IRA. What they mean by that is, hey, here's our list, stocks, bonds, mutual. You can direct it in anything you want that's on this list. So when you say, well, I want to buy 123 Ocean Ave, they're going to say, well, that's not on our list. You can't do that. I want to lend money to Jason. Oh, well, you can't do that. Jason's not on our list, right? So this is a truly self-directed IRA. We don't sell any products. We don't have any products. You guys are going to find the investment that you want to do through your own knowledge and expertise. I mean, this is really the only way to get true diversification. Brokerage houses don't want to tell you can do this. They'll tell you it's complicated, it's risky. Who in here is buying real estate right now or lending on real estate? Who thinks that's more risky than the stock market? Who thinks the stock market's more risky? Okay. So you'll hear that. I mean, the stock market we can't control. You all know this, you're aware of it, what happens overseas, all the other factors that go into it. But when you know the neighborhood and the houses, you know what it's going to rent for. Could it be off a little bit? Economy gets a little worse, maybe it's $100 less. A little better, you up the rent another $100, give or take. But it's most likely not going to zero. Like a stock can be $3 or $33 on Friday and $3 on Monday. I doubt your real estate's going to have that dramatic of a change. Somebody always needs a roof over their head, etc. Again, real tangible assets. Benefit, I mean, you can, with your Roth IRA, and I stress that a lot, I'm a big fan of it. I think everybody should have one. If you don't have one, I would say open one and start contributing to it. You also should look into it for your kids or grandkids as well. But you can have tax-free income for the rest of your life in your Roth IRA. You can have that passed down to whoever your beneficiaries are, and that could outlive you for 100 years if you do it right. So this is a really powerful tool for you guys to take advantage of. Again, at 70 and a half, any tax-deferred accounts, Uncle Sam says, hey, we've been partners long enough, you have to start taking money out and paying me back. The Roth IRA, you're not partners with Uncle Sam. Remember when I said you paid him back in 2018? You don't owe him anymore. Government's cut out of it. Whatever you turn, if that was your $50,000 and you turn it into $5 million, you take that $5 million out if you want and you put it in your pocket. No taxes. They're not taking everything. The full $5 million goes in your pocket. But the tax deferred you will have to start taking out. It's actually a quote from one of our clients. You get to invest in what you know, understand, and can control versus use. Anybody still in the market here? Have some of their accounts still in there? Does a lot of people, I won't ask you since put you on the spot, but a lot of people say, I give it to my broker and I hope they make me money. I hope they make me money. Does anybody in here think hope's a good strategy? So you just want to look at this and pay attention. I think, if you're in control of your money, I think you watch it a lot more closely than anybody else would. I mean, who likes going, or who would want to go from forever tax to never tax? Hope that's everybody, right? Government's plan or your plan? Which one do you want? Why do you need us? Realistically, the only reason we're in business is because the government doesn't trust you with your own retirement funds. They say you have to have an authorized party to hold those funds. Again, we're a neutral third party. We don't give you that advice. You guys will direct everything. We don't do anything without you telling us to do it. Basically, you want to look at us as a glorified bookkeeper. You're going to sign all the paperwork, read and approved, and we're going to sign off for benefit of your IRA. How easy is this to do? It's pretty simple. It's like opening a bank account. You fill out an application. You'll do one of three ways to fund the account. You'll transfer funds from an existing IRA, or you'll do a rollover from a qualified plan such as 401k, 403b, etc. Or you can make a contribution. Like I said, if you don't have a Roth IRA, I would open one of those up and make a contribution. You don't have to do it with us. If you're under 50 years old, you can put $5,500 in. Once you're over 50 years old, they give you an extra $1,000. You can put $6,500 in. I know in this space it's a little hard to, do something with that money, but you can put that money in each year and grow it. And I mean, you can still put it with us as well. We don't charge you any fees until you make an investment, by the way. But I would definitely look into having one of those. Go ahead.
So once you open the account, let's say you do a rollover from an existing 401k plan, how soon do you have access to the money in your new self-directed IRA?
Question was, how soon, if you roll your money from a 401k plan into your Camel Plan IRA, do you have access? So I'll just kind of start from the beginning there. You can open an account on our website in less than 10 minutes. So getting the account open is very easy. Rolling those funds over, I always say average time, plan on 2 weeks. Basically, you'll liquidate those funds, that who's ever holding them, which means you'll put them into cash. You'll sell your stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and put it into cash. With a rollover, you'll fill out, who's ever holding your money will have their form. And basically, they'll say 3 to 5, 5 to 8 days, depending on who they are. But roughly 2 weeks. Once we have the funds, we can turn, an investment around within 48 hours of you giving us the paperwork. So it's pretty quick on our side once you're set up and we have the funds. I mean, I have seen people get funds within a day or two. That's very rare. So plan on 2 weeks. And I always tell people, and it happens to me all the time, somebody comes to me and says, hey, I found a property, but I need to close in 5 days now. Well, we can't close with money we don't have, right? Most likely you're not going to get it here in a matter of days. When you tell them, assuming it's not in cash already, and when you go to sell it at your brokerage house, they're going to tell you it's going to take 2-3 days for those funds to settle, right? And then we have to get them. So get it open, get some money in there, especially at least enough to put down a down payment if you're going to need that. And then obviously you can set it out a little bit and get the other money over. But once the account's open, you'll fill out the paperwork for the investment, you'll give it to us, we'll sign it, read and approved for your IRA, send the money out, and then you can go online. You know, where you used to see Apple stock, you'll now see loaned to hard money bankers or 123 Ocean Ave for X dollars, right? And you'll see everything come in or out of that account. This is just fees. We have 2 ways of doing fees. It's $50 to open an account. You're in your record keeping fee. Option A is a flat $275. So whether you buy or make a $50,000 investment or a $50 million investment, we're going to charge you $275 a year. Option B is based on a multiplier, and that goes on the value of the account. That's tiered, and that has a minimum of $150. You can always switch between these. The fees are there, they're part of the application, look at it, but You know, I don't really have anybody that complains about them. Again, so for example, when you go to purchase a property, it's not you, it's your IRA. The purchaser of the property or the lender on the note is Camaplan, FBO, John Doe's IRA. Some people don't like to use their name. You can put your account number in instead of your name if you want. And obviously the address is our address at our office for your IRA. All the funds with us are in an FDIC insured account while they're with us. Obviously when they go out to an investment, they're in the investment. We do require, or I don't want to say require, we usually have a minimum of $4,000 to open an IRA with us. The reason we do that is because it's kind of hard to do something with anything less than that in this space. However, I have had people that said, hey, I'm just going to throw $1,000 in there. I got a deal that I'm going to wholesale and make $7,000. Okay, well, you know, that makes sense. Go ahead and do that. So it's just there, but if you have a certain situation, let me know. We can work with you. Again, plan on, you know, 2 to 6 weeks, depending on where the funds are coming from. And our turnaround time is 48 hours. If you want to look this information up or don't believe what I'm telling you, you can look at these publications. Again, publication 590 is for the IRAs there. Mentions real estate over 50 times. I'll elaborate a little bit on that since I say it mentions it. Like I was saying, you're a prohibited person. You're still making the choices for the IRA. So for example, when your IRA purchases a property, you can't go in and paint. So the main things with real estate, no sweat equity, no personal use. So you just want to look at it, because who in here still does work themselves on the properties? Okay, so you want to do that on your personal side, but when it's your IRA, you can pick the contractor, you can pick the color to paint the wall, but you won't be the one in there, you know, with the paintbrush painting the wall. One, like I said, your IRA can't pay you, you're prohibited. Secondly, you can't do it for free, so you can't get around that way because now you're giving your IRA a benefit. So just keep it clean, pick the contractors, pick the work. You guys can go in there, look at it, inspect it, make sure it's done right, etc. But you won't be doing the work, and obviously you can't live there. Go ahead.
So who would be able to claim the tax benefits from the expenses?
So the question was claiming the tax benefits from the expenses. So I'll go into this, and like I said, Jason has some questions that might address some of this. Let me see if I have that in this. No. Oops. You can go back one there with my information, Jason. Your IRA, you don't get any tax benefits or depreciation. I know we all love depreciation. I have an example I can bring up. It still works out better in the IRA in every case that I've tried it in, but you're not paying taxes. So they don't give you depreciation because you weren't paying anything. The reason you're getting depreciation personally is because you're paying taxes, so they let you get that. You're not paying any taxes in the IRA, so it makes sense that they're not going to just give you free money. Does that make sense or no? So I said you want to look at this as a separate bucket over here. You know, all those expenses and things that you're doing personally are great. Keep doing those over there to make whatever money you need, and then you want to start putting it in here because you're going to make out a lot better not having to pay those taxes. Don't worry about the depreciation and things.
So does the repair money come out of the IRA fund?
Yes. Assuming the IRA buys it 100%, then yes, 100% of the money, any repairs, any profits, everything flows in. Like I said, look at it as a separate entity. It's not you. I mean, if you and I were partners in a deal, let's say we went in 50-50, right? And there was an expense. You're not going to say, oh, Ryan, well, I'll pay that 50% for you. You're going to be like, give me the money, right? Well, the same thing with the IRA. The IRA is responsible to pay that. Now, your IRA doesn't have to buy it 100% either. Remember when I said you were a prohibited person? You are, but partnering's different. You're a separate entity, right? And this doesn't mean you get to do half the work or anything, but I'll just go through an example here. What's your name? Andre. Andre's going to buy a property 50% Andre personally and 50% his IRA. So the purchaser's Camel Plan, FBO, Andre's IRA 50%, and Andre 50% personally. IRA is going to put 50% in to close, you're going to put 50% in. Any expenses, you're going to pay 50, IRA is going to pay 50. Any profits from rent or when you sell it are going to get split 50-50. Okay? And you can partner with other people's IRAs as well. You can partner your traditional and Roth and your dad's and your mom's, even though I said they were prohibited, but they can partner with yours and you can go buy a house. With that being said too, your IRA can get a loan. It has to be a non-recourse loan. Jason's very familiar with these. He's been doing them. For those who aren't that familiar with it, like I was saying, the IRA is a separate entity. It has no credit, right? You can't personally guarantee anything for it. It's its own entity, and basically the non-recourse loan is the language in there that says if your IRA fails to pay the lender back, the lender's going to take the property, right? Most likely, big institutions, Wells Fargo or PNC, they're not going to do it. As soon as you tell them there's a chance that they could have a piece of property, whoa, they don't want any part of that. They're not in the business of real estate. So, and I'm not saying you can't get them there, because there are people that have gotten them with relationships and things, but in the past few years it's been pretty tight. There are institutions that do it. I can give you those. Jason does a lot of them himself with the funds they have. But I'm also going to mention another thing, and this isn't necessarily a topic for tonight, but when your IRA does get a loan, and you can write this down if you want, I'm going to mention two things. UBIT, U-B-I-T, unrelated business income tax, and that'll relate more to flipping. The IRS doesn't want you running a business out of your IRA. They consider flipping a business because you have inventory in and inventory out. So they say, well, otherwise every company would do this and they wouldn't pay any taxes. So they say, you know, even though it's in an IRA, you're going to pay taxes. It doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. There's plenty of people that do it. As well with the UDFI, unrelated debt financing income. If your IRA gets a loan, you'll be paying on that borrowed money. However, there's a little equation and your accountant can do it very simply for you. But now that you're paying taxes, now you get depreciation on that borrowed money, by the way. Okay? We won't get into that. It's a little higher level. Just be aware of it, but you can do that. We can explain it to you. You can look it up. Don't look at it as a bad thing. You'll see some people and articles out there like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing in the world. I have people that'll come over with their funds and say, well, instead of buying one house for $500,000, I'm going to go buy 4 houses, right? And I'm going to get non-recourse loans on 4 houses. So, and they're aware of it. This might help clear it up for you. Publication 990T, 990T as in Tom, is the form for the IRS to file taxes for an IRA or retirement account. And that works for both of those, UBIT and UDFI. Did you want to add anything to that?
So I want to talk about a few different real life case studies of when you can utilize your self-directed IRAs. I think that's important to kind of bring this whole thing together, because you may be sitting here and being like, well, you know, I only have 20 grand in my IRA, I'm not 100% sure what to do with it, you know, things like that. And there's a lot of very, very creative ways to make these work. 2 things though, real quick, before I get into that. Keep in mind that there's a lot of different types of self-directed retirement accounts. There's you know, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, tax-free compared to tax-deferred. There's 401k plans. So moving forward, if you either have a regular IRA and you want to roll it over into a self-directed IRA, you know, obviously reach out to Ryan for whatever is the most recommended. Like he said, one thing that's hopefully makes sense. Let's say you have and this is something that Chris and I did years ago. We had traditional IRAs. So with our traditional IRAs, we rolled them over, converted them into a Roth IRA, and the reason we did that is now everything moves tax-free. It went from tax-deferred to tax-free. Yes, we had to pay our ordinary income tax bracket on that money, but it was a one-time thing on a much smaller amount. So now all that money grows tax-free, 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 if that makes sense. So let's say whatever, you have $20,000 in a traditional IRA, you pay $20,000 in whatever that tax is. You roll it over to a Roth, and then moving forward, it's tax-free. So it's somewhat of a no-brainer. Obviously, if you have $1 million, it's a little bit harder to potentially do. It might not make financial sense, but there's a lot of different sophisticated ones. So just make sure that you reach out to Ryan or obviously someone to figure out what plan is the best, to roll over or to start a new one.
Basically, when you do a conversion, and like I said, you can use both of these accounts. You can keep it traditional and keep going that way. It's better than doing it in a taxable environment where you're going to pay at the end. But basically, when you do a conversion, we're going to give you a 1099. You're going to put that with your ordinary income and you're going to go taxes at whatever tax bracket you're in. Obviously, everybody's age and personal situation will depend on what they can afford to do at the moment. You don't have to do it all at once, right? You can do some this year, skip next year, do some the following year. You can convert whenever you want, however much you want, right? If you lost your job and didn't have a job that year, that might be a good year for you to do it. But like Jason had said, with $1 million, you're going to have funds to cover that $1 million in taxes. But it's out there. I mean, literally 2 months ago, a doctor, he'd been waiting to do it. He had his money in a profit sharing plan, and he converted $1.5 million in 2018. Granted, that's a hefty bill, but he knows what he's doing and the returns he's making on real estate. He said, well, if I keep it in here, I'm going to pay on more. So, as I said before, you're going to bite the bullet at some point. You're going to pay it somewhere at some time. Do you want to pay on the seeds or do you want to pay on the crop?
Yeah, another thing to keep crystal clear related to these accounts, and then we'll talk about a few case studies in a second as well, is remember, if you have a retirement plan with your current employer or from a past employer, you have a retirement plan, you don't have that much flexibility of what you can invest in. You're investing in whatever that employer set up for you. And that's great. Most of that stuff's in equities, it's in the stock market, and if the market goes great, that's great, but you don't have a lot of flexibility. Doing the self-directed IRA model, again, you get to self-direct, that's the key word, self-direct where you're putting your investment. Now, there's good and bad with this. The good is you have the benefit to self-directed. The bad is you need to make sure you're making good investment decisions, just like anything else. So you still got to be a real estate investor. You still got to find good deals. Just because you have the money available, a lot of people think it's kind of like play money. It sits over here. It's not in my cash account. I'm not actually touching it. I can't withdraw it. It's sitting over here. I can make gambles with it. That's not the case. But it's a really good mechanism to use. And I mean, we can only talk so much about the tax-free, tax-deferred benefits.
I will mention a few other things. So with the qualified plans, your 401ks, 403bs, etc. Obviously, if they're from an old employer, that's easy, boom, you roll them over. Current plans that you currently have at a job you're working at, you'll have to check with HR and see if you can move funds out of that while you're still working. Usually if you're over 65 or 59 and a half, a lot of the times you can. However, there's some cases that they don't let you. So there's 3 different answers if it's a current plan. Yes, you can move all of it. No, you can move some of it. Or no, you can't move any of it. You don't have to mention self-directed to anybody. If you can take funds from your 401k plan and put them into a traditional IRA at Fidelity, then you can put them with us. So that's all you really need to ask. Hey, can I move money into an IRA? And if the answer is yes, then you can move that. I was going to mention one other thing. Who would be doing more deals if they had more money? There's trillions of dollars in these retirement accounts, okay? Somewhere in between 2 and 3% of the country knows about this and uses it. While that's a small percentage, I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of accounts. However, that's how many people don't know about this. So I'll have people, and all this is available to you. Anybody that trusts you may want to invest in your real estate if they think that that's a good deal for them, right? But they don't know. They've never heard of this. People will also say, well, I don't want to ask anybody, my friends or family, for money. You don't ever have to ask anybody for money, okay? It's an opportunity. Hey, I'm going to be buying this house. Do you want to be part of it? Oh, hey, I'm sorry, you know, my discretionary funds are tied up. I can't do that. Oh, well, did you know you can, you know, use your IRA or 401k to invest in this with me? 99% of the time, the answer is going to be no, unless they've heard about this. Oh, well, tell me more about this. I mean, there's so much information on this. It's in so many books. It's in the news. They can find this information. They can call me. They can go to our website. They can look at the IRS forms. Like I said, it's nothing new, but that's how much money's out there for people to use. If you're looking at converting, though, I wanted to mention this, and you can write this down. Keep It, K-E-P-I-T, by Joe Luby, L-U-B-Y. That's a great book, one of the best ones I've seen on conversions. Literally, that'll save you tens of thousands of dollars depending on your situation.
Let's go through a quick case study. Let's say I recently rolled over an IRA and I have a deal I want to buy and I have $100,000 in my self-directed IRA. I find a property that's $140,000. I'm not 100% sure, you know, I can't buy it. I only have $100,000. What are kind of some ways to get into that deal?
I'd start with asking Jason for it.
I didn't set that up just to be that, but
I mean, you can get hard money loans. A lot of people do that. Usually it's for a short period of time, so it's really not that financial burden on the deal. If it is, I'd probably find a better deal. But yeah, you can get the money from, you know, like hard money bankers, your next door neighbor's pocket, his IRA, her IRA.
Let's go through the partnering with yourself one too.
Okay.
Like, or let's say your IRA has $100,000 and you have $10,000.
Okay. Let's make it 150 just because, yeah. The only reason I say that is because, like I had mentioned before, you don't want to give your IRA a benefit, but in most cases it's not. You could have went and got a loan for that $10,000. If you couldn't, then you could be giving your IRA a benefit, but your IRA has $100,000, you're buying it for $150, so you are 25% and your IRA is 75%, right? Everything is going to get split with that. The purchasers, your IRA at X% and you personally at X%. Whatever those percentages are going to be the way that deal goes. Now you can't, keep in mind, you can't ever sell back to yourself or sell to your IRA. It's going to be like that partnership until you end up selling it, right? You can't sell the property yourself and you can't sell your percentage back to your IRA. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, I want to go through a deal similar to that we just did, and it was actually with Campbell Plan. It was a $140,000 loan amount. We funded it last month, and our main borrower was the IRA. He had $70,000 in the Campbell Plan self-directed IRA, and then his friend, I don't remember her name, but she had $70,000, and she was the contractor. I think she was technically the contractor. So they split it 50-50. He put up money through his IRA. She put up money through hers. We did a loan. He couldn't sign on it. Because what happens is it's a separate entity. So Campbell Plan actually has to sign on behalf of him, not him on that particular case. So we lent him the money, and in essence, she's doing the majority of the work. He's very passive on his end. She's doing all the work, and I don't want to say where it gets tricky, but something that you got to understand is the monthly payments that are made to us or whoever aren't made by him personally. They're made by either the IRA, typically his IRA is paying half, she's paying half. When a contractor needs money, the contractor is getting the money from the IRA and from this other person that way. So there's so many people that I see out there who are involved in this all the time that are using the term self-dealing, and self-dealing is not a good term in this. Everything's got to live in that. I mean, imagine if you own a business entity and a bill comes. You don't pay that from your personal pocket, you pay that from your business entity. So you almost have to look at the IRA as the entity that shelters it. If you're buying a property for $100 grand, you only have $100,000 in your IRA, chances are that's going to be tough to do, because what happens if you go over budget or something else happens and you don't have the money? All of a sudden you have to dip into your pockets to get that. You get into self-dealing and you're going to get into IRS issues that way.
So are you saying, like right now, I have a capital partner, right? And he's funding the deal through his self-directed IRA.
Yep.
So I've drawn up my JV agreement, but it does not say his self-directed IRA. Are you saying that it needs to have, mind you, I have not sent it to my attorney yet, so
Yeah.
he probably would have told me, but you're saying that it needs to say
As the
And
partner
the
of
trust.
so
as
let
the
me,
JV.
okay, so that's a good question. So is he lending you the money or is he partnering with you completely?
Partnering. He's yeah.
Who's buying the property? Under both of you together or just you?
My entity.
And then you, so just your entity and that entity is just you?
Yeah.
And so technically, I mean, you're partnering, but he's still kind of putting up all the money. Is he doing a note with you? Or is it just a joint venture partnership that when the property sells, it all goes back to him?
No, we're splitting.
Or half of it goes back to him?
Yeah.
But there's no note or anything, it's just a joint venture agreement. So technically, yes, he should be putting it under his, the self-directed IRA. I mean, that's,
His IRA is the entity lending or JVing with your business, yeah.
I mean, that's on him, not you, but
Yeah.
again, it would do you justice to kind of educate him on that, because he's probably not doing it because he just doesn't know.
Right.
So I would educate on him and be like, listen, honestly, you know, Mr. Smith, you should do this under, the JV agreement should be between me and your self-directed IRA, not me and you personally, because you can't get the money personally.
Yeah, well, we know that.
Yeah.
That's why we have
For him to get that
escrow.
money to you, like you're gonna give that JV agreement, to whoever has that self-directed IRA. And if it says his name, they're gonna tell him to correct that at that point. So it'll come out at some point, because they're not, we wouldn't sign off for it if it's not in the IRA's name, right? It's in Camel Plan, FBO, John Smith's IRA with our address, right? So it's not him personally, it's not his home address, and it's not just his name alone.
The good part about, are you guys technically a custodian? Is that the right word? Administrator?
Administrator, yeah.
Administrator. Okay, so a good game plan with, Camel Plan and other people. Remember, Camel Plan's not telling you if it's a good investment or not. They're not a financial advisor of, hey, this is a good deal, this isn't a good deal. Like you said, they're a bookkeeper. They're helping administer the transaction to make sure it's good, and also to watch your back so you don't get yourself in trouble with your own self-directed IRA, because you don't want to get ordinary income plus the penalty for doing it the wrong way, or even worse, potentially getting your whole IRA stripped just for self-dealing. And from every self-directed IRA attorney I've talked to in the past, ignorance is not not an excuse.
It's not excuse for the law.
Yeah.
That's what.
And there,
The rules really aren't that hard, but you want to be aware of them. I would encourage everybody to go to our website, camelplan.com. Underneath Resource Center, you'll see a category, Prohibited Transactions. I would just read through that. That'll give you a good understanding of it. Again, if you want to read Publication 590 or you have a problem sleeping, go ahead and read that in their terms. But it's too good of a tool, to mess up. I always say, spend the money, do it right, run it by the accountant or attorney or whoever, your professionals are that you're working with, because it's a lot more costly to go fix something than it is to pay up front and do it right, okay? Every time I've ever seen an attorney, everybody knows they're expensive. If they have to go fix something, it's gonna take 10 times longer than if they would have done it right from the start.
yeah, I mean, the two biggest mistakes that we see firsthand is you figure out a way to intertwine your own money with your self-directed IRA, which is a no-no. You can't get yourself money out that way. Even if it slips through the administrator, it can't benefit you. The other thing is doing it, trying to manipulate the system through a spouse or a family member or something like that. Like, oh, hey, my dad wants to get and do a deal with me and lend me, $100,000. That doesn't work. So those are, you just learn the system a little
Right,
bit.
I mean, and they have, I can't speak for the IRS. I don't think because people will say this to me all the time, right? Well, how's the IRS gonna know I painted the walls? I don't know. They're probably not if you never got audited.
That's anything with the IRS.
Right.
It's anything in your tax return.
Exactly, but you'd want everything to match up. I've done this with, thousands of people, literally, probably hundreds of people with this certain example. I've talked to them and they're like, well, this really sucks because I like to do the work, right? I like, going in there and doing this. I did actually have a guy, and I use this, I'm like, really, you want to paint the walls? You're probably not that good at it. Why don't you just pay the painter? And then I said, are you a painter? And he said, yeah, he has a painting company, but that was just my luck. And
Pay one of his employees out of there, subcontract or something.
But I've had people that do this, and they are doing properties themselves personally. They're not stopping that, but then they start using their retirement accounts, and they're hiring people for it. Next thing you know, I talk to them, or I run into them at a meeting, and you know what they tell me? This was the greatest thing. One, finding out about doing it in their IRAs, but they don't do any work themselves. They said, I haven't picked up anything, I haven't touched a hammer, I haven't done anything, I hire everybody now. It gets done a lot more quickly. When you're doing stuff personally, we all know this, your kid gets sick, you're going to a play, the weather's bad, all of these other things that get in your way from preventing you from doing it. So 9 out of 10 people that have done this and switched, they say it's the greatest thing and they're so happy they're not doing the work. Why pay, who in here wants to make $10 an hour? So why are you doing $10 an hour jobs? Okay, if that's what your time's worth, I think you should be out finding another deal instead of painting the walls, right? Why are you making yourself a $10 or $15 employee to your projects? Is that what you want?
Does anyone else have any specific questions related to maybe their self-directed IRA, a deal they're involved in that could use some guidance? Go ahead.
Actually, I have some questions, actually. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Two of them. One, can you move assets from a corporation into your IRA that you own? The second one is, can you hold stocks in a corporation for your IRA? Corporation, obviously.
When you say move assets from a corporation, are you talking about like?
If I have a C Corp that owns real estate,
No,
can I
yeah.
sell that from the C Corp into the IRA?
No self-dealing. Once you own it or your business owns it, it's done. Yeah, you can't sell to yourself. No self-dealing.
And what about owning stock in your corporate stock in your IRA?
Your own. So when you say corporate stock, give me investing in your own company? No. You can't invest in your own company, but you could invest in my company or Jason's company or somebody else in this room's company, yes.
Go ahead.
So I've been doing this for several years for my teenage kids. So I pay them $5,500 a year as models for my advertising.
Right.
And they put it but the company I use says that they charge my credit card for the fees when they do transactions.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can pay your fees, and I won't speak for other institutions, but I'm pretty sure it's like that across the board. You can pay your, I'll just use us as an example. You can pay your CAMA plan fees, our annual record keeping fees or transaction fees, either on a credit card, we can invoice you, you can send a check, or you can pay them out of the account.
But does it matter since it's my kid's account? And
No.
I'm paying the fees?
No, it doesn't matter. I'll get to you in 1 second. Go ahead.
So, I buy a college rental in a joint venture, but my daughter doesn't want to do
No. So I was gonna go through this, and I forgot when Jason was mentioning. So I'll say two things right now, and then I'll get right to that. They have what they call a sham transaction and the indirect rule. The indirect rule basically states that anything that you can do indirectly, you can do directly. So you can't lend the money to your brother or John Doe, and then John Doe lends it back to you. All you did was put a middleman in there, and that's why they say that. And the sham transaction also comes in and saying, okay, well, I'm going to lend Andre $100,000, and Andre's going to take his IRA and lend me $100,000. All we did is basically swap our IRAs to have control over them, right? So you can't just swap your money out like that either. Now, and again, I can't speak for the IRS, but let's just say Andre needed $100,000 from me today, and he asked me for $100,000 from my IRA, and I happened to have it there. My deal came in, and I had $100,000. I'd say, sure, I'll lend Andre the $100,000, right? Now, 3 months down the road, I come to Andre and I say, hey, I found a deal. Are you in a position to lend me $70,000? And he says, yeah. Okay, well, circumstances have changed. It's not the same day. We weren't swapping. I'm not saying that that's okay, but you just want to have a reason for it, right? It wasn't the same day. It was a different time period. He didn't have that money available. That's why he needed it then to do his deal. And now he got paid back on something, and he had it, and he was able, to lend it out again. So you want to have a reason for doing it. And again, don't, quote me on that as saying that's okay. But what you really want to look at is if the IRS was to challenge it and say it was prohibited, what are you going to say as to why it's not prohibited? And if your accountant or attorney thinks, attorney I would say in that case, but if your attorney says, well, I think we'd win on point A, B, and C, then I'd say, all right, I'd probably feel comfortable doing that. If he says, no, if we went to court with this, I think you'd lose because of this, this, and this, then I'd say I probably wouldn't do it. But I will mention another thing. There is no IRA jail, okay? The worst thing that can happen to you, if you're under 59 and a half, you'd get a 10% penalty and you'd pay the taxes. So, just keep that in mind. That's not encouragement to go do something prohibited. But back to and I'll get to your question, I see you. I have people that do that, and this goes for a shore house too, and I'll use that as an example in a minute. But people will say, yes, can I buy a house for my daughter or son in college? They're not going to live there. They're not going to live there, right? Their two friends are going to be on the lease. No, they're living there, they're prohibited, right? The next thing you know, their car is parked in the driveway, their boyfriend's staying there, then they're getting mail there, then they get a noise complaint or arrested there. It's just you don't want to do that. Just look at it as an investment. Right now, your account at Fidelity that's sitting there, you don't get any benefit from it. You want to buy IBM, buy IBM. You don't get to go to Bill Gates' house and swim in his pool. It's an investment. That's kind of a bad example, but just look at it as an investment. Just because you've changed from a stock to a tangible asset like real estate, you don't get any benefit. It's just an investment. You're using it to make money. The same thing with people, I'm going to buy a house down at the shore. I'm not going to use it, but technically I am going to use it 2 weeks out of the year. No, again, you can't use it. You're probably going to go to the same, and I'll just tell you, the accountants, attorneys, from what I've heard, most people get turned in close friends and family. Relationships break up, people get divorced, etc. Certain circumstances happen. Somebody says, well, I know what you did. I was down there the past 6 years at your house that your IRA owned, and blah, 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 blah. So, just keep it clean. It's investment. It's really not that hard. Just look at it as an investment tool. Go ahead there.
I actually have two questions. I was looking at another self-directed IRA firm, and they said that when I open an account, I have to put it as an LLC. Is that something that's Can you explain that? And then they said you had to select a state, and if you had any kind of activity outside that state, it's considered foreign investments, and then you have an elevated tax burden with that. Can you explain that one? And my second question is the difference between you're an administrator as a custodian
Yep.
role and an administrator role, how that ties in and how that affects
Yeah.
the client.
So the first one, what was that again? Oh, the LLC, sorry.
LLC, yeah.
So I'm going to touch,
Doesn't count as an LLC. It has
Yeah.
to have an LLC.
so I'll touch briefly on that. That's, could be a long conversation, but I'll give you the basics of it. Yes, a lot of you may have heard checkbook LLC, checkbook control out there. Yes, you can have an LLC in your IRA that the IRA owns. People will do that for ease of transaction. You do want to have an attorney and everything when you're doing this. They have to set it up, and you're going to want advice and things. But your IRA or the attorney will create an LLC that your IRA owns. That LLC will then go get a checking account at whatever bank you get it at, and then you'll say, you know, I'll just use us as an example, Camel Plan, send my money to the LLC.
Well,
Now,
it was like Camel Plan was setting the LLC up under my account.
all right, so there are
Heard
companies,
of that before.
we don't set it up for you. You need to use and, you know,
Well, they would set it up, charge the fee, but then it would be.
Yeah, there's people out there, there's companies, I won't mention them, but there's companies out there that you're probably cheaper doing it with an attorney, but don't quote me because I don't know what attorney you're picking, but there's companies out there that'll set this up for you for $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. But I think you want to work with somebody when you set this up, because I've had people that come to me afterwards and they will have gotten one set up and had it for years, but they don't have an account. It got set up, everything was good, but anything that needs to be filed for that LLC is your responsibility. So your accountant or attorney or whoever set it up, assuming they're going to do that service for you, for example, Form 5500. If you have more than $250,000 in your LLC, you're required to file Form 5500 each year. The IRA is not going to do that for you. So you want to make sure that who you're working with has that. And there are services that will take care of all of that, and I don't know if that's who you're working with or not, but you just want to be aware of everything with that LLC. Now, the LLC also gives you the ability, so instead of saying Camel Plan purchased the property, you'd be buying it in the LLC's name, and you'd have control of those funds. You don't need us to say, hey, Camel, send the wire. You have control of that LLC's checking account, and you're able to do that. Again, the reason I say, you know, have professionals on your team that's aware of this is because you want to understand the rules, and most likely you're going to have questions moving forward. Let's just say, for example, you go out to Home Depot and buy the tile for the bathroom. Say, oh, okay, well that's good, I'll just have my LLC, you swipe it on your credit card at Home Depot, and then you go and say, okay, well I'll just have my LLC, you know, pay me back. Well, now you've done a prohibited transaction, your IRA's paid you, right? If you did that through us, we'd say, what was your name? We'd say, hey Trish, no, you can't actually do that, return the tile, have the guy that's redoing the bathroom, you know, or the company, have them pick up the tile and do it, and we'll, you know, send them the money. So you want to be aware. I don't know if they're guiding you or what advice they're giving you if they're doing that for you, but just make sure that you're covered on your filings for that and that you definitely understand the rules.
Self-directed firm is saying that they would set up my IRA under an LLC. It's not an LLC, it's a separate entity outside. It would be the IRA itself, and I've never heard that before. But as an LLC, I mean, I have something else that's like a checkbook, but it's not as an LLC.
Right, now it's not the other way around. The IRA is the owner of the LLC, not the other way around. Is that what you were saying though, too? Yeah, no, that's incorrect. You can't do that. Yeah, so just look at that, or maybe there was confusion or somebody meant to.
Well, he was saying that setting it up, if you didn't set it up in Maryland, you
I haven't heard that, and I mean, a lot of the LLCs that I see, a lot of them are Delaware, and then like Arizona, but I haven't heard that problem. But again, I'm not an accountant or attorney, so you know, check with them on that. Certain states have different rules and things, and that stuff changes, and I don't, you know. Yeah. Talk to the attorney or accountant on that one. As far as, that's a good question. An administrator and a custodian. Some people look at this two different ways, good and bad. We're an administrator. We use Meridian Bank as our custodian. The reason Carl and Maggie set it up that way, they believe it was more protection for our clients. If you're the custodian, you're in complete control of that. You're basically the bank, and you have control of all the funds, and you can do whatever you want with them. I mean, everything is run through us. We just have our bank account at Meridian Bank. Like I said, everything's FDIC insured. Doesn't matter what amount, but basically, you know, if Carl or Maggie or the owners of the company went into Meridian Bank and said, hey, can you give me $70 million? I want to cash this out. It would probably throw up some red flags at Meridian Bank as to why you wanted $70 million taken out of an account, and then, you know, they'd look into fraud and what was going on. As a custodian, you basically have more control of that, and they could take it out a little easier. Again, I'm not in that, you know, law side of all of how that works, but basically that's the difference. Some people will say, and you'll hear it out there, oh, they should be the custodian and everything, and then other people will say it the other way. Well, no, I like it when there's a separation between that. I'd say that's give or take depending on who you're talking to. Go ahead.
Okay, so I want to try to make sure I understand your company. You set up this company, yes, it's a process. I have a separate, and I've used it over 10 years, and I think it works a little bit different. Like with your company, are you guys holding the money, so when we request it, you can direct it to whatever investment you want us to, but you do not set up the LLC, not charge for it, not file custom property tax every year. True or not?
Yes.
You do.
No, no, we don't. No, we're
What do you do? You just
you're talking for the LLC?
I'm sorry.
You were talking for the LLC, did you say?
Mine was created with an LLC.
Yep.
And the LLC can direct us any investors they want. And I'm not involved. There's a middle person when it comes to making the self-directed.
So you have someone that's managing your LLC? You have someone that's managing your LLC?
The IRA, company, STC. Trust. You have STC? I do, yeah.
Okay.
And since they're managing it, and I can send a document over to request funds to be directed to somebody, they review it within 24 hours when it's there. But they also charge a quarterly fee of about $40, and they charge $100 a year to start the first property tax.
Yeah.
So, are you saying?
Right, we don't provide that service for the LLC. Yeah.
So you just hold the housing the money and say, yes, it's a legitimate transaction, or no, you can't do this, go find somebody to tell you what you can do, and come back to the
Well, you can ask us what you can and can't do, and all of that. Like I said, all of that information is there. You know, we'll tell you if you're doing something wrong, assuming we know. But yeah, with the LLC, basically you're in control of that, but you're saying they're actually still holding that and in control of it. So when you purchase something, is it in, what's the name of the purchaser?
Her actual entity.
Okay, so they're purchasing it in your LLC's name for you, and that's why you're getting those quarterly fees and everything. If you did it through us, you don't have to have it. I'm just going to use an attorney as an example. You'd have an attorney, and you would pay him whatever you paid him on a yearly basis to file the forms that you needed to.
But the funds that I direct, they go straight to the title company, where you disperse to the investor, and I'm
Right, and the same with us. I mean, when we purchase when we close on a property, we send the wire and coordinate with the title company.
It's the
Yeah.
same thing minus the LLC. Just take the LLC element out of it.
Exactly. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to piggyback to her question, so what, like with, I think it was the first plan was, I don't know, 200 and something a year, 275 or whatever it was.
Yep.
So what exactly does that mean?
The reporting for the IRA. Just take the LLC out of it, right? I mean, and by the way, I don't recommend LLCs. They also get unsecured notes, and LLCs get audited more often from what the accountants and attorneys have told me. But yeah, take the LLC out of it. That, you know, $275 is for us to, even with the LLC, so just so you know, you still pay LLC fees if you have them, and you still pay our fee. That's for reporting for the IRA, because the LLC is still an asset in your IRA, right? Now, you're going to tell us what that LLC is worth each year, and we're going to report on your IRA for it. The reason you don't have to do this at a brokerage house, right, is because they know what your stocks and mutual funds closed at on December 31st each year. We don't know what your property's worth, what your LLC is worth. You know, this is what the IRS calls hard to value assets. So we have to get a value for it, which you're going to give us, and then we're going to report on your IRA on that value. Whether it's an actual house or an LLC that owns 10 houses, you're going to tell us that value of it.
And then there's also a fee for every transaction that we do.
Correct. It's $150 when we close on a house. Everything else is $95. So for example, if you're lending money to Jason, it's $95. The only other fee, you know, a wire fee or an overnight fee, and all of this is part of the application there. Yeah. You had a question?
Yeah, just so I'm clear. So if you have a self-directed IRA, you don't have to.
You do not, no.
So even if we pay, say we have one house, we have a fee for that. What other fees?
So, yeah, so it's 200, and we do prorate that, but I'll just speak annually. So if you have a $500,000 house in there, it's going to be $275, or a $50,000 house. It's $275 a year, right? When we initially did the transaction, it was $150. You know, any checks that we send out to a contractor, it's $10, or an ACH is $5, you know, or an overnight fee, those types of things. So the following year, you're just going to pay $275 plus any checks or anything we send out.
One other question. So you do buy a $100,000 house, you've got $100,000 in your IRA at the time that you do it. You end up incurring another $10,000 of rehab expenses. Can you put money into the IRA?
Yes. Yeah, you can transfer more money from an existing account. You can make a contribution if you want. Again, you're limited on your contribution depending on the type of account. If it's a traditional or Roth, $5,500 or $6,500. SEPs let you put up to $54,000. 25% up to, you know, of what your business makes up to $54,000. The simple gives you more. The 401k gives you more. But otherwise, if you didn't have the money, say you had to put a new roof on and you didn't have the $30,000, right? Well, then you have to get a non-recourse loan, right, from, you know, whoever you're going to get that with.
If you have relationships with banks that will do that kind of loan,
We do those ones.
I hate to ask you what percentage, but
13%.
Go ahead. I would say do it directly out of the IRA. The reason for the LLC is not to save on fees. I've had people say, geez, really? You're gonna charge me $10 a check when I send out a check? You know, and I say, yeah, we're probably losing money on it. I gotta pay for someone to sit at a desk, collect it in the mail, process it, go put a stamp on it, and mail someone a check for $10. We would love not to have to do that. But yes, there is a fee for those things, and somebody will say, well, I might have, 50 checks with all the people I gotta pay. Okay, well, that's fine. You can go pay and have an LLC set up. You're gonna pay someone to do that. Like you said, the company they're paying $400 quarterly for it. And you're still gonna pay an accountant or attorney to file the forms for the LLC. So the LLC is more a personal decision, not to save money, and I don't want to keep going into that. I think Jason wants to get to the groups, but people do it for certain circumstances. Some people are control freaks, right? They want to be in control of it. Other people might be buying tax liens or sheriff sales, and they need to be able to put a check down on the spot. Well, it makes sense for some of those investments for it. If you're lending money, I really wouldn't do it. Real estate, it's a little more, you can, but you don't need to. If you're looking at it for asset protection, yes, and the attorneys will tell you it's kind of like another level, but IRAs are pretty well protected. IRAs are trusts. They're treated like trusts. So, ultimately, even if you have an LLC in the IRA, the owner of the LLC is the IRA. So if your LLC gets sued, it's your IRA getting sued, it's going to be part of it. It's not really getting you out of it. On the personal side, yes, I would, make your investments in an LLC, because obviously real estate has liability and you don't want them coming and taking everything that you have, so you should put that in an LLC. But like I said, your IRA is a separate entity. But when you buy a house in your IRA, you don't own it. It doesn't come up on your assets if somebody looks you up, because Camoplan, FBO, John Doe owns it, right, with our address. So it doesn't go against your DTI. You don't own it. So it's pretty well protected. I mean, unless a court order says, give us all your assets, nobody's going to know that you own 123 Ocean Ave, right?
All right, so Ryan's going to stick around anyways. He's part of our roundtable, so any questions you have for him, feel free. Ryan, thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for